Next week on Coronation Street, Shona and David face heartbreaking news. Will sneaks around with Megan, and Brody loses his temper with Tim and Sally. Number 1. Shona and David's devastating discovery. Shona and David are set to face tragic news about their unborn baby next week when they attend their first ultrasound appointment at Weatherfield General. Only a day earlier, the couple had been celebrating their 6th wedding anniversary. However, their romantic evening didn't unfold as expected after David accidentally booked the wrong date, forcing them to share a table at the bistro with Sarah and her new partner, Kit. Although David tried to stay optimistic, insisting that dining with his sister and his wife's ex would somehow save the night, he couldn't stop himself from criticizing Sarah's choice of boyfriend. The following week, David's remarks come back to haunt him when Kit corners him in the precinct. Aware that he needs to get home to collect Shona for their scan, David tries to avoid confrontation and walks away, but this only aggravates the situation. Wanting to prove a point, Kit retaliates by arresting David for assaulting an officer. While David is being detained, Shona impatiently waits for him to arrive. With no message or sign of him, her disappointment grows, and she reluctantly asks Sarah to drive her to the hospital instead. She has no idea what's gone on between David and Kit, Julia Goulding shares. She's just crushed because it's happened before, like the time he missed their first scan after getting stuck in a lift while bargain hunting for shampoo. During questioning, David pleads with Kit to let him go, explaining that he can't miss another key moment in the pregnancy. Eventually, Kit softens and agrees to take David to the hospital himself. David manages to get there just in time, and as he and Shona watch their baby appear on the monitor, their earlier tension melts away. But the joy quickly fades when the sonographer's smile disappears, and she reveals that there seems to be a mass forming on the baby's neck. "It's utterly devastating," Julia adds. "Anyone in their position would be heartbroken. Filming those scenes was incredibly tough. Having kids myself, I completely understand that excitement you feel before a scan, and to have that moment turn from joy to heartbreak is just unbelievably sad." In Wednesday's special episode, David and Shona prepare for a meeting with a consultant about their baby. The episode uniquely follows their morning from both of their perspectives. We first see things from Shona's viewpoint as she struggles to get through the day, still reeling from the shocking scan results. She can't comprehend how David appears so composed when the situation feels so uncertain, and the strain between them steadily increases. Eventually, just before they leave for the hospital, Shona reaches her limit and tells David to get out of the car, deciding to go to the appointment alone. The story then rewinds, showing the same morning through David's eyes. He pushes down his own fear and tries to appear strong for Shona, though it's clear he's not coping as well as he thinks. Shona assumes he doesn't care that much, Julia explains. Meanwhile, David believes he's doing a great job at pretending everything's fine. The purpose of this special episode is to highlight how disconnected they've become and how much stronger they are when they're united and supporting each other. Shona feels isolated, frightened, and adrift. She's losing faith in David's support, while he's racked with guilt, knowing she probably feels that way but unable to show his emotions, because that's just who David Platt is. At the hospital, the consultant examines the scan and confirms their worst fears. The mass on their baby girl's neck is a tumor. Continuing the pregnancy would mean Shona must undergo a highly complex and dangerous surgery. The couple's distress deepens when they learn that the tumor may be cancerous, leaving them to wrestle with an agonizing decision about how to move forward. For Shona, ending the pregnancy simply isn't an option, Julia says. She's immediately determined, "We'll do the surgery." That's where the tension begins. It's an incredibly risky operation that could endanger both Shona and the baby, and that's where David's fears come in, urging her to consider the dangers of both options before making such a life-changing choice. As they face one of the most painful crossroads of their lives, the question remains, Can Shona and David find common ground before it's too late? Number 2, Will falls deeper under Megan's spell. At the Rovers, Ben and Eva are growing increasingly worried about their son Will, who's been miserable ever since being uprooted from Hull and moved to Weatherfield. Hoping to lift his spirits, they start searching for a local athletics club to help him settle in. What they don't realize, however, is that Will's unhappiness has little to do with missing sport. He's secretly longing for his former teacher and coach, Megan Walsh. Viewers recently learned that Megan had been grooming the 15-year-old into an inappropriate relationship. Megan is incredibly self-absorbed, explains actress Beth Nixon. Will's only 15, so he sees her as perfect, beautiful, funny, exciting. She spoils him with gifts, like Xbox games, and makes him feel special. She thrives on being adored. That's what drives her. She's deeply insecure and needs that attention to feel worthy. Will makes her feel powerful, like she's the center of his universe. She doesn't actually care about Will for who he really is, Beth continues. It's about how he feeds her ego. He's the ideal target. He's been taken away from everything familiar in Hull. His biological mom isn't around and his family are preoccupied with running the pub. He's vulnerable, and she exploits that. When James casually mentions that he's a personal trainer, Eva jumps at the chance to get Will involved. Soon, James is putting Will through a training session, though Will barely engages, spending most of the time glued to his phone instead. Later in the week, Will lies to Ben and Eva, telling them he's traveling to Leeds for a track meet with his old team. Believing him completely, they wish him luck, unaware that he's secretly meeting up with Megan. After spending time together, Megan drives Will back to Weatherfield, but reality quickly sets in. Angry and frustrated, Will storms into the house, while outside, Ben unexpectedly bumps into Megan. Thinking she's simply a kind teacher, he invites her into the pub for lunch. But what will happen when Will walks in and discovers Megan sitting in the Rover's back room with his family? We'll gradually see her ingratiate herself with everyone, Beth teases. She'll charm the women, win their trust, and make them believe she's the perfect mentor for Will. Right now, nobody suspects a thing. Number 3, Fizz reaches breaking point. Over at number 9, tempers flare as tensions reach their peak, following the shocking discovery that Ruby has been secretly bullying her stepsister Hope, sending her cruel, anonymous text messages for weeks. Already feeling overwhelmed, Fizz is struggling to juggle everything at home while also managing a heavier workload since Tyrone's been confined to a wheelchair. Next week, the chaos at home intensifies when Ruby and Hope erupt into yet another fierce argument. Tyrone does his best to intervene, but his attempts to restore peace only make things worse. Completely drained and feeling as though the entire household's problems rest on her shoulders, Fizz finally loses her cool and lets out all her pent-up frustration. Later, at the factory, the stress finally takes its toll. In front of Izzy, Kirk, and Michael, Fizz snaps and begins striking her sewing machine in a fit of anger, leaving her coworkers stunned and unsure how to respond. Not long after, Michael inadvertently mentions to Tyrone that Fizz had a breakdown at work. Realizing just how much pressure she's been under, Tyrone decides it's time to step up and take some of the weight off her shoulders.